Today's lecture number 8, Dhamma Group 4. Today will be the last lecture of the Dhamma Group 4. And next week we'll start the Dhamma Group 5, Sunday 17 March 2024. Glad to see everyone joining the class today. What are the 4 bases of success that we learned last week? Itipada. You should memorize it. You should know there are 4 things, right? There are 4 things in this Itipada. If the exam asks you like this, you should be able to answer all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, and there we go. Number 1, Chanda. Number 2, Viriya. Number 3, Chitta. And number 4, Vimamsa. Your job is to go back and relearn and memorize. Okay, and one of the key factors for us to be wise in the teaching of the Buddha is to memorize the teaching. Okay, if you learn and you don't make note, you found it useful, you may find it useful, you may find it interesting. But next week, tomorrow, Monday, you may not know how to put them into practice because you kind of lost, whatever you learned from the class, right? This is something that's useful, is beneficial, right? When we talk about the 4 factors that help us to be success. So there is Chanda, there is Viriya, there is Chitta, and there is Vimamsa. There will be a quiz on this as well. Okay, Shanta, you have to love what you do, right? If you don't love it, most likely it's not going to be easy to be success. Maybe you are forced to do something that you don't like it. Okay, maybe you have to adjust your attitude toward the job that you do. And how can you, make sure how do you build the satisfaction or the love of your job? So you have to see the benefit, the value of the job that you do first, and go from there. If you don't see benefit, then you may not enjoy the work that you do. And then when you face the challenges, you need to endure with delight. Okay, fight with effort with a joyful mind. And also the Chitta is about you stay focused, right? Stay focused until the job is done. And number 4 is Vimamsa, is to test, to investigate, and to adjust until the job is done perfectly. Okay? And the second one, what are the 4 Brahma Vihara that we learned last week? This is one of the important teaching, right? When it comes to Buddhist principle that everyone seems to know about it. But when you know, do you remember? What are they? In this, the 4 Brahma Vihara. We're talking about Metta, right? Loving kindness, Karuna, compassion. Not only you have to remember the names, you need to know the meaning or the definition, and you need to know the difference. What's the difference between Metta and Karuna that we talked about it last week? What is the definition of Mudita? What is the definition of Upekkha? And how do we put them into practice? So if you missed the class from last week, I encourage you to go back and relearn, because definitely they will be on the test. And the last one that we learned from last week, the 4 protective meditations, or Datukammathana, the meditation that will protect you from distracting thought. What are they that consider the protective meditation? There are 4 of them. Recollection of the Buddha's qualities, right? Buddha Nusati Bhavana, the loving kindness, the Metta Bhavana, the contemplation on the unattractive nature of the body, Asubha Bhavana, and the recollection of death, Morana Nusati. There are 4 things. Today we will be touching on the Asubha a little bit as well. Okay. Ready for the quiz? Okay, number 1. Oops. Which factor acts as the wisdom elements in the Itipada? Itipada has 4, right? Viriya, Chanda, Vimamsa, and Chitta. Which one is act as the wisdom factor in the in the Itipada. Okay, that's good. The Vimangsa, right, is the reflection or the investigation of the work that you do. Second one, which one is the character of Mudita? Mudita is one of the Brahma Vihara, loving kindness, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and the um, upekha or the equanimities. Okay, sounds good. Should be easy. What is the first one? John feels sympathy when seeing people suffer from flooding. He feels sympathy. This is metta, right? The living kindness. Smith get over the sadness and move on with his life after his mom's pass. This is what? This is upekha, right? Upekha. And Adams occasionally give food to his poor neighborhood. He reached out to help someone. This is karuna. And that leaves us one choice left, which is this one. Is mudita. You feel Mary cheerfully rejoice in her college, when the person get promoted in her job. Okay, everyone's doing well. Please go back and relearn. Okay, and memorize. Memorize not just for the exam, but I mean memorize for you to put into practice too. By default, when you hear the word Brahma Vihara, you should think of the four things right away. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Ubekha. When you hear the word Itipada, you have to right away, you can think of Chanta, Viriya, Citta, Vimangsa as well. That's how I study myself, and that's how I recommend you to using the same approach when it comes to study Dhamma. You must be able to memorize them in order. That's how it decides. Otherwise, the Buddha did not give the Dhamma, talk or Dhamma teaching randomly. When it's come in order, that means it means something. Okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So move on to today's lecture. Oh, I'm sorry. This one, another one. The answer already there. Which one is not a member of the protective meditation of Arakha Kammathana? If you memorize the 4 Arakha Kammathana, the answer should be very easy. Right? Loving kindness has to be there. Asupha has to be there. Marananusati has to be there. Which one is missing? We're missing one, right? Okay. That is recollection of the Buddha virtue or the Buddha. We call the recollection of the Buddha qualities or the Buddha Nusati. So the question, we asking you something like this back and forth. Okay. So today, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about something quite advanced, and I don't expect everyone to understand everything that we will be discussing today, but I expect you to at least see the big picture and how they are related to each other when it comes to the Vipassana meditation. Some of you may hear this for the first time, the word Satipatthana, which is good. Sooner or later, you're going to have to hear it anyway. If you are a serious Buddhist study student or you are a serious meditator, you must study Satipatthana. Okay? And if you plan to be the meditation instructor, of course, you definitely have to know this sutra or have to study deeper than just learning from this class about Satipatthana. And the second one, we will be talking about the 4 meditation of the elements. The elements in Pali we call Dhatu. Datukammathana. Okay, Datukammathana. Last week we learned what? We learned Arakha Kammathana. Right? There is the word Kammathana. What is Kammathana? What is Kamma and Thana? Thana is a station. You think of the train station. Kamma means action, right? Is the action or the work. The station, the working station of the mind. If we put the mind into the dhatu or the element, that means the mind is working with the dhatu. If we put the mind into the breath, put the mind into the Buddha, put the mind into the precept, put the mind into the death, that's the station of the mind to be working on. So the mind can be still, the mind can be focused instead of distracted by thought, by lust, by anger, whatever the mind is facing. That's the idea of the word kammathana. So by far, in the 7 week 8 weeks like this, you should familiar with this term. Okay. And the last one, we will be talking about the Four Noble Truths, which all Buddhist people must know. It's called Ariya Satya. You see, these three subjects are considered advanced in week number 8, and we only have less than 1 hour, 15 minutes to talk about three of them, which is impossible for us to go deep. And the elementary level designed that way for you to get to know the Dhamma from the Buddhist text as much as possible. That is why it's go very superficial. But even though it designed that way, I will do my best to maybe show you something that I find it very useful and beneficial, and hopefully it's open up your eyes when it's come to the teaching of the Buddha. It's deeper than what we think. Okay, we start from the first one, the Satipatthana first. The first week we learn mindfulness and sati and sampajanya, mindfulness and the awareness already. This one. The first week we learn sati, the virtue, two virtues of great assistance, sati and sampajanya. Hope everyone still remember. This is very crucial in the teaching of the Buddha. Sati is considered the great assistant for all Dhamma practice. Can you name one thing that you don't need sati to support you to be success in practicing that Dhamma? Probably not. And when you have sati, it will give rise to sampajanya. And in many teaching, the Buddha always teach the monk and the lay people to do this. A monk, you should live mindful and aware. This is my instruction to you. Whether you are new to the teaching or you have come to the teaching for quite some time. Because if you think of this picture again, Venerable Sariputta teach us that the virtue of great assistance in his view is heedfulness. How can a man realize Nibbana if he is careless person? He just cannot, right? He just cannot. And heedfulness, of course, refer to a man with sati. And when you hear the word sati, by default, you know that sati, when sati arrives, sampajanya follow. When you are mindful, then you can have a chance to comprehend clearly of whatever in front of you. So with all the teaching of the Buddha, 84,000 teaching, coming down to one coming down to one crucial element, which is heedfulness, from the view of Sariputta. So heedfulness is also mentioned as the last teaching of the Buddha as well. The word heedfulness. It's our job to decode what it means by heedfulness. And always, heedfulness has to have sati as a supporter. If you are mindful, then you cannot be careless, right? And today we will go deeper than the first week. We will be talking about the Satipatthana. But again, just suitable for the time that we have. So we cannot go deep in this particular sutra. But I will give you the reference so you can go back and study by yourself. This is the problem of the world. People doesn't know how to control the mind. They don't aware that the mind need to be looked after too. That's why people have a lot of stress and depressed, because the mind is everywhere and the mind is overwhelming by thoughts all day long. The moment that we wake up, the mind is bombarding with all kinds of stimuli until the time that we go back to bed, right? Good, bad, not good, not bad, work, business, study, people, health, political problem, economical problem, environmental problem. This is the world that we're living in. Myself, I stopped reading newspaper in the past, over 10 years. And as a monk, we don't need to know everything. If the world's gonna collapse tomorrow, someone will let us know so we can prepare and do something about it. Other than that, we don't have to worry about what's on the newspapers. Okay, and this is because sati is not there. That's why thought is overwhelming our mind. So you need to make sure develop the skill of being mindful. And the Buddha teach monk very simple. To be mindful, you need to practice mindfulness based on the Satipatthana that we will be learning today. This afternoon, you'll be seeing where the Buddha wants us to practice mindfulness, and that will give you confidence when it comes to practice of mindfulness and the awareness. The word Satipatthana is a combination of two words. Okay, Sati and Upatthana. Sati means mindfulness. Okay, we learned last week. The first week, and Patthana mean placing near, being present or attending. So altogether, Satipatthana mean the presence of mindfulness or the attending with mindfulness. Just to keep it simple. And the Satipatthana itself, this is the highlight of the sutra. Highlight of the sutra. It said, monks, this is the direct path for the purification of being, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation or grief, for the disappearance of dukkha and discontent, for the acquiring of the right path, and for the realization of nibbana, namely the four satipatthana. You see how important of this sutra. The Buddha teach us in detail how to develop sati, not samadhi. There's a word sati here. For you to think as a food for thought, why didn't the Buddha teach about samadhi? Why did he talk only about sati? There is no single sutra in the Buddhist text, from my own experience, that the Buddha teach about how to practice samadhi in detail. But he did teach how to practice or develop sati in detail in this particular sutra or Satipatthana or the Maha Satipatthana in Majjhima Nikaya, the sutra number 22. Just by reading this paragraph, it got my attention, and so I cannot stop looking for the full sutra to read myself, because it said the direct path toward to Nibbana. If someone walk down to this path by utilize the four Satipatthana, that will take us directly to Nibbana, to realize Nibbana. And what happened when a man realizes Nibbana? That means his dukkha will be completely removed. Completely removed. Interesting, right? If we put them into picture, this is the idea of Satipatthana. The purpose of Satipatthana is for the purification of being, body, speech, and mind. If you are mindful, your mind will be with you, not with something else in this world. For the overcoming of sorrow, lamentation. Why, if you have sati, you can overcome your sorrow, your dukkha. For the extinguishing of suffering and grief. For the walking on the path to the truth, and for the realization of Nibbana. This is the purpose of Satipatthana practice. And there are four of them. The first one is called, that means there are four places that the Buddha suggests us to practice or develop sati. There are four places in these five aggregates. First, Kaya. Kaya means what? Kaya nupassana satipatthana. You contemplate your body, the contemplation of the body. Kaya means body. Second is called Vedana. Vedana nupassana satipatthana, the contemplation of feelings. And the third is called Citta, or Citta. Citta nupassana satipatthana means contemplation of the mind. Citta or Citta means the mind. And the last one, the last group, is called Dhamma or Dhamma. Dhamma nupassana satipatthana, the contemplation of the Dhamma, or the phenomenon of the mind or the mind objects. There are several English vocabulary that used when it comes to Dhamma. For those of you who hearing this sutra for the first time, there will be new term for you to study, and don't to worry about it. Okay, you can go back and study, and I do encourage everyone to go find the sutra and read it by yourself. If you have Maha Satipatthana, this one sutra is fine. Whatever we learn, everything that we learn today are kept in the second sutra, which is Maha Satipatthana Sutra, the Tikha Nikaya, okay, the teaching number 22. The difference between Satipatthana Sutra and the Satipatthana Sutta is Maha mean greater, right? Mean bigger. That means it has greater detail of the first one. So basically, the first teaching also incorporate in the second sutra. But when you study the Satipatthana at the very end of the sutra, you will find that there are explanation about the Four Noble Truths in detail. What is mean by dukkha, what is mean by samudaya, what is mean by nirodha, what is mean by the Magga, and go in detail in each one of the Noble Eightfold Path too. This is the beautiful explanation where you not normally find in other sutta when it's come to the explanation of the Four Noble Truths. And if you study the Dhammajakkappavatana Sutra, the first teaching, that was the first time the Buddha mentioned about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path and the middle way concept to those five aesthetics for the first time. But in that teaching, it was very short, less than half page of the A4 paper. And there is no detailed explanation what is really mean by dukkha, what is really mean by samudaya. Because those five students, they are advanced students. The Buddha did not give a detailed explanation, but they understand. And later on, in other teaching, the Buddha start to give explanation to the later student. So we have to go back and check if we want to know what the Buddha means by dukkha samudaya, what is mean by birth is aging, what is mean by sorrow is aging, what is mean by the five aggregate is the subject of clinging, and that causes us to be suffering. And the teaching goes like this. Here the bhikkhus. A bhikkhu live contemplating the body in the body, contemplating feeling in the feeling, contemplating consciousness or the mind in the mind, contemplating the Dhamma or the mental object in mental object. And the key word is here, ardent. It's called atapi, sampachano, satima in Pali, meaning that atapi means you make an effort, okay, you persevere. And sampachano, you have clear comprehension. Satima means you are mindful. Having overcome this world, covetousness and grief. This one. When you study Satipatthana and when you try to put them into practice, to the body, the feeling, the mind, and the mind object, you have to apply these three things. You make an effort, atapi, effort with the joyful mind. You persevere, you don't give up. Clearly knowing sampachano, you know what you do, you know the object that you use, you reflect on the body, you reflect on the mind, you reflect on the mind object. And then satima, that you are mindful, moment to moment. So these three things go together and it strengthens the success of the Satipatthana practice. Body, feelings, mind, and the mind object. Okay, how is everyone doing so far? Okay, for the monks, I believe most of us, we have learned the Satipatthana. Okay, but for the lay people, maybe not everyone have come this far when it's come to this particular sutra. But anyway, we have to start somewhere, right? If you start to learn this for the first time, this is good. I hope it's an eye-opening for you. Then you can find time to study in detail later on. So our job is to know that how can we practice mindfulness in the body, in the feeling, in the mind, and in the mind object. They are not easy to do that because they are considered in the vipassana level. When we hear the word vipassana, that means we have to actually see this phenomenon in the mind. We cannot just intellectually think, oh, now this is how I feel. We don't see it, but we can feel it. But we can start from there, just to know first, feel first, and later on we can see them later, right? Satipatthana is very important. Like I said, even the Buddha teach the monk in one teaching. This is how we save our mind from the invasion of the Mara. Human being, we contact to the outside world through the sense door. We have eye to see, we have ear to hear, we have nose to smell, tongue to taste, and body to touch, right? These five doors. And if you don't guard your sense door well, you open up the door for the enemy to come to your mind. And the only way you can save yourself from that invasion, you need to be mindful. You should roam inside your own domain or territory, the domain of your fathers. If you roam inside your own territory, the domain of your fathers, the Mara won't find a vulnerability to get a hold of you. Again, there is the word Mara in the Buddhist text too, which we haven't talked about it. In other words, if you are mindful, in keep the mind in the body, you are safe from the distraction. You are safe from the trap of the Mara. When you see something you like, the mind stay outside. When you see something you don't like, the mind also stay outside. But whatever you like or you don't like, if you can maintain the stillness of the mind inside, you are protected from your sati. You know what I mean? If the guy says something bad to you, if the mind is still inside, you will not yell back to him. And the reason you yell back to him is because you cannot control your feeling that I don't like it. I have to do something about it. So you lost your consciousness, you lost your mindfulness, then you take unwholesome action, maybe toward violence, maybe doing something wrongly. When you receive that dislike behavior from someone says something bad, someone do something bad to you, you respond right away by instinct. In this afternoon, we can only skim through it quickly, just for you to get the idea of what it means by Satipatthana. Again, Satipatthana is this one, right? The four Satipatthana, the four foundation of mindfulness. There are four places inside us that the Buddha suggests us to develop mindfulness through the body, through the feeling, through the mind, through the mind object. And in one teaching, someone asked the Buddha, how do we know we are mindful? The Buddha said, a person who are mindful is the person who keep the mind in these four areas, with the body, with the feeling, with the mind object. So we need to know what does it mean, right? How to keep the mind in the body, how to keep the mind, how to be mindful in the body, to be mindful in the feeling, to be mindful in the mind, and to be mindful in the Dhamma. The body itself, the kaya, mean body. Mindfulness, ultimately, this is what it means. Ultimately, mindfulness limited to the investigation of the body or the kaya as the field of thought. Thus, this body is just the body, is not a being or a person or the self of oneself or others. We may not understand what it means. The body is my body. How come in this teaching the Buddha said the body is not yours, it's not a being, it's not a person, it's not yourself or it's not others. But he said this body is just the body. That is why it's called vipassana. It's deep. It's not just what we see and we understand. Now we understand things through what we see from this physical eye. And when the eye see the form, if you know this is male, female, cat, dog, that's how much you know. What that person name, this person name, what kind of dog, what kind of cat, what kind of flowers. That's what we experience, and we kept that memory somewhere, and then we know what it is. But when it's come to vipassana, when it's come to the vipassana through the body as the body, a person need to meditate to actually penetrate to the truth inside the mind, inside our own body. Because vipassana mean what? Vipassana means seeing, right? We mean is you see things in a special way, in a noble way, in a specific way. And now we see something not in a special way. We don't have the X-ray eyes. Vipassana is like you have the X-ray eyes. If you go to the hospital, if you go to X-ray your chest, when you get the film, you see what inside your chest. You see that your bone, how many pieces of bone, what's inside there is the lung, what size, what shape, right? Especially if you go through the MRI scan, if you go through the tunnel of the MRI, you see the whole body, the brain, the kidney, the heart. That's what I did, a few years ago. I saw my internal organ for the first time. I cannot see from this physical eye. And when I see, I understand, oh, this is my brain. This is how it looked like. This is the size of my heart. This is the size of my kidney, my lung. And I can see the fat around my kidney. And now I know, oh, there's a fat in this area, so I have to watch out what I eat from now on, this and that. With that seeing, help me to understand my body than before. And the reason I understand that because I can see from the MRI film. I cannot see from this eye. X-ray is similar to the idea of vipassana. You have to develop that eye, the inner eye. Then you can see things differently. And the Buddha already teach this, in the Dhammachak. Chakku karani, yana karani, upasamaya, apinyaya, sampodhaya, and nippanaya. If you go back and study, you know what I mean. Chakku karani means, in order for a man to realize Nibbana, he need to develop chakku. Chakku means eyes. When he have that eye, he can see things the way they are. He can see the true nature of things. Definitely, the Buddha did not mean you have to develop this physical eye because you already have it. You can see things, but your perception has been distorted by the ignorance or avijja. So Chakukarani first, right? And then Yana Karani. When you have eye, you see, you understand, it becomes your panya or wisdom. And it leads to apinya, super knowledge. When you have that super knowledge, you become peace, you become calm, and it leads to awakening, it leads to nibbana. That's the process. That's the vipassana. So Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana need to be seen from the inner eyes. But today we just have to go through this concept, okay? Theoretically, you may not right away understand the idea behind this, but at least get to see how the sutra look like, get to hear the term, and get to familiar with this kind of vocabulary. And please go back and study. I definitely recommend this sutra for everyone. Okay, so the Kayanupassana is about you develop sati in the body. How do you develop sati in the body? I show you this picture. You start from body first. You know there are four things, right? Body, feelings, mind, and the mind object. The four area. That's why it's called four Satipatthana. Four area that you should be mindful and develop mindfulness from here. But it's getting more and more difficult as you go along. How can you observe the mind? How can you observe the feeling? How can you observe the mind? How can you observe the Dhamma? They are deep. So maybe it's easier to start from observe the body first, right? Be mindful with the body. How we can start from the breathing. How do you breathe? Do you breathe in short or you breathe in long? And when you breathe in short, how do you feel? When you breathe out short, how do you feel? Do you know clearly every time that you breathe in and out? You can sit there for hours, just observe your breath in and out. What about posture? The way you walk, the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you do things, activities, eating, sleeping, laundry, cooking, working. Can you be mindful on this stuff? Something on the daily routine first. Anatomical part, can we learn about the Asupha last week, right? Kesa, Loma, Nakha, head hair, body hair, lung, kidney, blood fresh in the bone in the body. That's anatomical part. Be mindful on that. And the element, we will touch on this a little bit today. Earth, water, wind, fire elements that make the body. And also there's another area of the body that we can develop mindfulness is called the crops in decay. The Buddha teach about different kind of dead body that monk can practice when it's come to develop mindfulness. So some of this may be too extreme for beginner, right? When you start to practice mindfulness, you don't just right away look for the dead body to practice mindfulness. You may not be able to do that, but you can start from something very simple right away. Breathing, posture. When you walk from point A to point B, can you be mindful? Activities. What about eating? Do you eat mindfully this lunch? Where is your mind when you first wake up this morning? If you can catch that, that means you are mindful. Usually people don't even think the first moment that you are conscious right after you wake up. Tomorrow morning, you ask yourself, where is your mind? You catch your mind and then observe it. Give yourself a few moments before you go to the bathroom. Reflect of your own life, reflect of how grateful you are. Today is another day that I'm so fortunate to be alive. I'm going to do something worthwhile. I'm going to study Dhamma. I'm going to meditate. So something like this to make your day, another happy days. Start from you being mindful the first moment that you wake up. And later on, you contemplate on the body. After body, you're comfortable, you can move on to contemplate the feeling. This is getting more difficult, right? Your mindfulness has to be sharp, has to be quick to catch the feeling. There are three kinds of feeling. Pleasant feeling or sukha, unpleasant or dukkha, pleasure or unpleasure, pleasure and unpleasurable, and neutral feeling, atukama sukha. When you see the food you like, you're so happy, you want to go back to the same food again. You're not so mindful. You just want to eat what you want to eat. You neglect the rest of the food, on the table. That's how the mind works, right? We're not mindful. If we are monks, we usually chant before we eat. So we reflect on the purpose of eating, why we eat, how much should we eat, when should we stop. And each bite that we take each bite that we chew, we do it mindfully. Then you can feel while you eat, do you might have any thought, agitated mind or anything at all. And that's will prepare you for the next level, which is to observe the mind and be mindful with the mind. Do you might have lust or not today? How many times you get angry today? Do you might have delusion or distraction thought today? How often do you have that kind of thought? That's how you observe the mind or develop sati through the mind. And the mind object is most difficult. How do you observe five hindrances? How do you observe the five aggregate? How do you observe the sense sphere, eye, ear, nose, tongue? How do you observe the awakening factors? How do you observe the Four Noble Truths? This is advanced, right? We cannot do that as the beginner, but we know that they are there. We know that they are there. So we are on our way to practice the Satipatthana in that level, which is the level number 4, the Dhamma, to be mindful of the Dhamma that arising in the mind. That's something that you should keep in mind. Okay, so the first one is Kaya Nupassana. Eventually, when you practice, often you feel confident. You will see that body is just the body. There's no being. Same thing with Vedana. Vedana Nupassana is about you develop mindfulness through the feelings. Mindfulness investigation of the feeling, including happiness, suffering, and neutral as the field of thought. Thus, this feeling is just feeling. It is not a being, not a person, nor self of oneself or others. See, the first one, body is just the body. There's no being. Feeling is just a feeling. It's just the condition phenomena. There's no being in the vipassana level because they start to see things differently, right? Like example I used earlier, if I see myself on the X-ray films or the MRI films, I don't even know myself. This is me because there's all organ. There's no being in there. I don't see my face. I don't see my skin. I only see my heart, my lung, my kidney, which can be anybody picture. That's how vipassana works. So there's no being in us. But the reason we think that we are we, it's a mind made, it's a delusion. If you watch the movie called Matrix, you may be able to relate that to this the idea of we are in the matrix, right? We are enslaved. Human being, we are slave. Don't you know that? We are slave to thirst, to craving. We are slave to ignorance, and we don't know that. Okay, so that's the idea of the Satipatthana. Citta, again, mindfulness on the investigation of the mind. When your mind have lust, you know that the mind have lust. Stop thinking about it. When your mind get angry, you know that you are angry. Take a few good deep breaths and change your attention to something else. That's how you develop mindfulness when you feel like or don't like something. The mind is just the mind. Whatever comes to your mind, it comes and go. It's not a being, it's not a person, or it's not oneself or others. And the last one, the Dhammanupassana, mindfulness on investigation of the Dhamma or the mental phenomena, which are good, bad, and not good, not bad, right? So this Dhamma is just the Dhamma. They are not a being, a person, or oneself, or others. So this definition I capture from the books that we use. There are two books that we use in this class, right? The first is the Nakdhamma handbooks, and the second one is Navakovada, the red one. You can take a look by yourself. Okay, I think that should be enough information for now about the Satipatthana. Just to recap Satipatthana, there are 4 areas that the Buddha suggests us to develop sati through the body, to the feeling, feel good, not bad, to the mind have lust or not, the mind get angry or not, the mind agitate or not. When you know, that means you are mindful. When you're mindful, you usually make a better decision, right? And still develop sati to the Dhamma or the phenomenon in the mind. Why do we have lust? The hindrances, the 5 aggregates. So this, the last area of the Satipatthana or the Dhammanupassana is difficult. Just for today, just get to know there are 4 of them and just know the meaning and how it works. The idea is to see things differently, to see that there is no being. Because if we still cling on us as a being, we cannot be liberated. The mind cannot let go, right? This is the idea of vipassana. And the second thing, the second Dhamma that we'll be talking today again, is still considered the advanced. We're talking about something that we don't see from these physical eyes, but somehow the Buddha mentioned this in the text. It's called Dhatu. Dhatu means elements. Kammathana. We working on the elements, a working station of the mind, to be working on the elements or the Dhatu. And there are four major Dhatu. The first one is called Patavi. Patavi Dhatu means the earth elements. The second one is called Apo. Apo Dhatu means water elements. The third one is called Tejo. Tejo means fire elements. And the last one is called Vayo, or the air elements. Sometimes the Buddha mentioned about 6 elements as well. But for today, in this Kammathan, Dhatu Kammathan, we only stick with the 4 Dhatu. But before I explain this, we learn about the protective meditation or the Arakha Kammathan. And one of them talk about Asubha Bhavana, to contemplate on the unattractive nature of the body. Why did the Buddha teach us to reflect on the loathsomeness of the body? Like this one, the 32 part of the body. So you need to be able to connect them from what we learned last week in this Kammathana to today Kammathana or the Dhatu Kammathana. When a man ordained, the preceptor will teach you this Kammathana is the first Kammathana that a man learned right away after he become a monk. It's called Kesa, head hair, Loma, body hair, Nakha, nails, Danta, teeth, Tacho, skin. Kesa, Loma, Nakha, Tanta, Tacho, Tacho, Tanta, Nakha, Loma, Kesa. Why the preceptor give you this meditation object to the new monk? It's a tool to protect yourself because you just die from a lay life and reborn as a monk's life. Monk life, we are separate ourselves from the sense pleasure world. Sense pleasure world is the world of the lay people. Their happiness comes from what they see, they hear, they smell, they taste, they touch, relationship, vacation, good food, good clothes, shopping, this and that. But when a man become a monk, right away the man still feel like, I just come from the lay life yesterday or last week. Today I become a monk, or this is my first week of being a monk. So the mind is still everywhere, thinking of what he had experienced before he become a monk, thinking of relationship, thinking of traveling, this and that. That's why the preceptor need to give you a tool, the meditation object for you to reflect. So you can get bored. You can be, it's a reminder of who we are. So you can bring the mind back when you reflect on the body hair, head hair, nail, teeth and the skin. You see that nothing in the body is beautiful. Especially when the monk has a lustful mind, you think of this loathsomeness of the body, the 32 part of the body. And nothing beautiful. When we reflect into the true nature of the body like this, the mind kind of release from those lustful mind, and the mind come back and be able to stay still inside the body. So we have body and the mind. We seem to know that. And we know that the body composed of the 4 elements, the earth elements, something solid, right? You think of hair, bones, nail, teeth, you name it. And the water element, something cohesive. It's cohesive. You think of urine, saliva, blood. We have liquid in the body. And the fire is the temperature. We feel hot, we feel warm. If it's over the temperature, body temperature over 37, we may get fever. The air element is something, is the motion, something move. I think of breathe. We breathe in and out all the time. When we stop breathing, we die. As long as you're still breathing, that means you have air throughout your body. We have gas as well in the body. So these 4 elements makes body the body. And the body alone, it means nothing without the mind. The mind is the master, the body is the slave. The mind tells the body to go to do things, to eat, to walk, to eat, to sleep, to meditate, right? So we need to know that there's the mind is the master of the body is the slave of the mind. We look after the body, we should look after the mind too. You take shower to make sure the body is free, is clean and fresh. You should take shower the mind too, at least twice a day, through the meditation practice, to the mindfulness practice. And the mind also composed of the 4 elements, start from the knowing elements, the consciousness. We probably talk about this in detail when we study the 5 aggregate later on. The vijnana, the knowing elements, the mind can know, the mind can feel, feeling element, the mind can perceive, called perception, can memorize, The mind can think. It's called mental formation. That's the mind. So in this particular kammathatu, I'm sorry, the Datukammathana, the one that we are learning at the moment, this one, we have to know what it means, and we have to know the purpose of this meditation practice. The earth element, or Pathavi, solid extensions. You think of hair, bone, nail, teeth, right? We have this in the body. This is the nature of the body. And the body has the water elements called apo. It's a liquid. It's cohesion. It's permissive. You think of this urine, blood, urine, saliva, limbs. We have liquid in the body. And the body have also the fire element. They show we have temperature in the body. When a person die, within 5 minutes, the body start losing the fire elements. After the person lose the air elements, stop breathing within 5 minutes, the temperature will be dropped. The heart will stop pumping the blood. The body will turn from red to white within 5 minutes. So we return all this back to the nature after a person die. The air stop, the fire extinguish from 37 drop down to maybe 0. And then the water elements and then the earth elements. The earth element lasts very long because they are solid. But all of this will be gone very quickly. The air, the fire, the water. And that make a human body. And the Buddha teach us to reflect on this. You can find this teaching in the same sutra, the Satipatthana Sutra, about the reflection of this very own body. The Buddha talk about the earth elements, the water elements, the fire elements, and the wind element in the body. He wants us to understand them fully. Okay, they are placed and they are disposed by way of the material elements. They're not us, we're not them. It's just the nature. It's the condition phenomena that this earth, water, wind, fire stay together with the element of the mind, and then we exist based on our previous karma and the new karma that make us exist as that a man, woman, this and that. And he used a simile like this, like a butcher, a clever cow butcher who stand at the corner, four junction of the road, when he can slaughter the cow, okay, and divided it into portion. He know exactly how to do that. So we as a monk, we should the same way. A monk should reflect on his very body, this very body as its place or disposed by way of the material elements. There are in this body the elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. And that help us to understand the idea of the nature of realities, and we don't cling on so much on the body, and that let go the lust from the mind, right? We were born, we look, become handsome, eventually we get old. Same thing, man and woman is undeniable fact, is the true natures. So by reflecting on this Datukammathana, it helps us to calm the mind down, bring the mind back every time the mind wander about sense pleasure. The more you keep doing that, eventually the mind will be more obedient. Then you can go deeper into your meditation practice, and perhaps one day you can be able to start seeing things the way they are when you get to the advanced level of meditation, to see that the body is not yours. The body is a conditioned phenomena, and there is no reason to be suffering when things go wrong. That's the second Dhamma for today. Now we come to the last one. It's also another heavy one. We are talking about the Four Noble Truths in less than 30 minutes. The significance of the Four Noble Truths. Everyone seems too familiar with this concept, right? If you are Buddhist, this is the essence, this is the core of the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha said, because not understanding, after his enlightenment, he shared with us that because not understanding and not penetrating the Four Noble Truths, you and I, that means we and the Buddha, have roamed and wandered through this long course of cycle of existence. And the reason we still here and keep on reborn and reborn for a countless lifetime, become the travel of the samsara. Become the traveler of the samsara without end, is because we don't know and don't understand the Four Noble Truths fully. So please don't take the teaching of the Four Noble Truths very lightly. Oh, I already know that, only four of them. dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, makkha. I can memorize, I can pass the exam. The Four Noble Truths need to be seen. We only understand the Four Noble Truths by our intelligence or intellectually understand it. But we don't understand it from just like what the Buddha did. You have to actually see it. In another teaching, he said, why I have declared the Four Noble Truths? Because it is beneficial. It belongs to the fundamentals of the holy life. It leads to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, and to nibbana. That's why the Buddha declared the Four Noble Truths. You see how deep of this the Noble Truth principle. It actually appears in the first teaching already in the Dhammachakka, but we may not realize that this teaching is already there. The Four Noble Truths composed of four things. The Four Noble Truth, there is the word noble, right? Ariya Satcha. It has to be said Ariya Satcha. It has to be said noble truth because it's not just the truth. And why it's called noble? One reason means it's unchangeable truth. It doesn't matter how long the time goes by, 25,000 years ago, today, and 5,000 years from now, this truth of nature will never change. That's why it's called noble, for one reason. And the second reason why it's called noble because it ennobles us to be a noble being. If a man practices the Four Noble Truths, he will transform himself from an ignoble man to be a noble man, from an ignorant man to be a man of wisdom. That's why it's called noble. It has nothing to do with belief or religions. It's deal purely with the truth of life, the truth of nature. Start from number one, dukkha, usually translated as suffering and discontent. Again, it's not enough meaning to understand what it means by dukkha by hearing this several of the English vocabulary. Second one is called samudaya, the cause of the arising of dukkha or tanha. The third one is called nirodha, the cessation of dukkha. And the fourth one is called makkha, which again lead to the Noble Eightfold Path, which we will not cover today. The component practices that brings about the cessation of dukkha. You see, the teaching of the Buddha is about cause and effect. Someone asked the Buddha, what can you summarize your teaching in one sentence? The Buddha said, yes. The Buddha, in the past and now, I teach suffering and the cessation of suffering, or dukkha, okay, and the cessation of dukkha. That's the essence of the teaching of the Buddha. That means everyone who have a chance to meet with the Buddha, whatever suffering they have, he or she has, those suffering will be relieved because he or she will have a chance to hearing the right teaching that help to lessen that suffering. Most people would achieve at least the first level of enlightenment, become the stream entry, so Satipatthana, all the way up to Arahant. There are two things that the Buddha teach mainly. Did he teach something else? Of course. The Buddha teach a lot of things. He teach a man how to secure his wealth, how to make money, how to take care of parents, wife, children. The Buddha teach a lot of things, but the main teaching throughout his 45 years of teaching career, is about dukkha and how to end dukkha. So to end dukkha, you need to understand five aggregates. You need to understand this body. Dukkha and happiness doesn't come from the sky. It comes from this very body and mind. That is why you have to develop that eyes. Jakku korani. You have jakku, you have eye. When you have eye, you can see. When you see, you understand. Jakku lead to jhana korani. And that will lead to later on the apinyaya or the higher wisdom, higher knowledge later on, which help us to remove defilement from the mind. And then when that happens, a man will realize nibbana. So samudaya, the cause of dukkha, point to tanha, right? It's about cause and effect. Because of tanha, then we are suffering. Because of a man walk down the Noble Eightfold Path, then his suffering is ended. It's about cause and effect, nothing much. So dukkha, there are many terms used when it comes to Buddhist study. many vocabulary, but none of this or all of this can explain the real or the full meaning of the word dukkha. You may hear the word anxiety, sad, distress, pain, unease, agonize, frustration. Uh, the classic translation use the word suffering, unsatisfactoriness, oppression. So this kind of term try to explain the word dukkha. But the word dukkha in Pali means something that difficult to put up with, an unease of the body and unease of the mind because they are hard to put up with. This is the meaning of the word dukkha. And there are two kinds of dukkha, right? The routine or natural suffering, natural dukkha. We born from point A and we walk through life and we die at point B. And no one can escape this painful truth. We don't want to get old, we don't want to die. We don't want to separate from the thing that we love. There are three kinds of suffering, three categories, right? We associate with something, someone, some situation that we don't like, we are unhappy, we are suffering. We separate from something, someone, something we like, we also suffering. And we don't get what we want, we end up suffering. That's what the Buddha teach in the first noble truth. And the second one is called occasional suffering. Like this man, right? He has many balloons. If you get married, you have wife, you have husband, comparing to your friend who are single. These two people have two different problems, two different responsibilities in life. A couple who have kids and a couple who don't have kids also have different issue in family life too, right? People who have several kids comparing to people who have one kid, they also have different condition of life to take care of. So we don't have the same occasional suffering, but we share the same natural suffering. We born, we get old, and we die, and we don't want to be like that. So it's hard to put up. That's why it's called dukkha. Something's gonna fall apart. Something's gonna go wrong. It's come in with the sense of uncertainty, insecure, as we go through life. And the second one, the Buddha talk about the cause of dukkha. In the text, samudaya means what? Is the noble truth of origin or the root cause of suffering. This one is interesting. The Buddha is the mind expert. In order to know the cause of suffering, he point to tanha, and that tanha need to be seen because tanha is kept in human mind. This craving is called craving, right? Which lead to re-becoming, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight and lust here and there. You see, the Buddha already give the definition, what he means by craving. Because the word craving is just a generic word. You can crave to be a good person. You can crave to achieve enlightenment. You can crave for money. You can crave for relationship. It's just the generic word. But here is the definition. How do we know this craving is tanha or not? And he point to three tanha. The first is called sensual pleasure. Kama tanha, craving for becoming. Bhava tanha, craving for this becoming. Vibhava tanha. This term is difficult to understand. Translating by using the translation of these translators. But I'm going to give you something else in a moment. The Buddha discovered that the world means us as a being. We are lacks and hungers, and we are enslaved to thirst. Thirst point to tanha or craving. Don't you know that you are slave? We all are slave to thirst, and we don't aware of that. We are so ignorant. That's why we are called ignorant being. So if you buy a cigarette in Thailand, in front of the cigarette box there is a picture of all kind of cancer, mouth cancer, lung cancer, eye cancer, in front of the cigarette box. That means if you take this, if you smoke this cigarette, you may have a chance to end up having this kind of cancer. But the funny thing is, a person, a man, people still buy it and smoke. That means he is willing to be like that, to be like that picture, to have cancer in the future if he keep on smoking. You see how we are so ignorant. We are enslaved to tanha. We enslaved to thirst. And when we hear the word slave, that means we don't have the power on our own. Our life run by someone else. Someone else tell us to do something, then we have to do it because we are slave to them. And now we are enslaved to tanha. Tanha force us to do something bad. It's bad for our health. It's bad for a lot of things, but we still sacrifice our health to buy cigarette, to buy alcohol, and to destroy our health, even though we know it's bad for our health. The Kama Tanha, again, there are three kinds, right? One, two, three. Let me elaborate a little bit from the text that we just read. Craving Kama Tanha, basically you think of the word Kama is sense pleasure, sensory pleasure. We crave for object of emotional attachment. That's called Kama Tanha. You name it. Shopping, relationship, clothes, food, human, animal, object, you name it. Material thing. From what you see, you hear, you smell, you taste, you touch, if you like it, you want more of it. And the reason you want more of it is because you think or you hope that having more of that will make you happier. Have one car, let's buy the second car. Have two cars, buy the third car. That's how we live because we are enslaved to these defilements or tanha. Second one is called bhava tanha. The first one, I think it's not so difficult to understand. But the second and third, much more difficult to understand. You have to keep in mind that tanha is the cause of suffering. This is the second noble truth. So all of this, one, two, three, kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha, when it take control the mind, we will end up suffering. Keep that in mind. So bhava tanha, crave for existence, or crave for becoming, crave to be, crave to be. Vibhava tanha, to keep it simple, you have the word we in front of bhava tanha, that means you crave not to be, for non-existence. Existence and non-existence sometimes is hard to grasp, right? It translates as you crave for next life. You don't want to die. You want to continue. That's why we keep reborning, because we don't want to end our life. In one meaning is yes, but in the practical way or practical understanding, how can we put this bhava tanha into use here and now, right away, so we can understand, so we can prevent it from happening? I will give you an example in a moment. Same thing with vibhava tanha. So I translate it to not to be, just to make it easy. And how do we know? I'm sorry. This is the nature of tanha that the Buddha gave. The definition is important because I have been asked many times, how do we know which kind of craving is considered tanha? Is this craving bad? Is this craving good? How do we know? The definition is here, already given to us in the second noble truth. The tanha will lead to rebirth. Again, what is meant by rebirth? Keep in mind. Second is connected with desire, lust, and enjoyment. And we will find lust, delight here and there. We are trapped in the realm of tanha. Rebirth can mean the real reborn, right? Die and reborn. That's understandable. But how can we put into use right now in this very life? We still alive. We don't, die yet, right? So we have to understand how to put the idea of tanha into practice in this very on a daily basis in this very life. Are all craving bad? Is craving drive by ignorance that called tanha? Why? Because we will end up suffering. If that craving drive by tanha, you, me, everyone will be end up suffering. But if that craving drive by wisdom, we can call passion in Pali. That's not craving. That's not tanha. It's called passion. For example, if a person want to get rich quick, he gathers some of his friends. You know what, guy? Let's go rob the bank, so we can get a lot of money next week. So they get money quick. They become rich. The idea is to get money very quick, and that's behavior driven by ignorance, driven by greed, driven by tanha, kama tanha. I want money. I want it now. Let's go do something bad. He will end up suffering. The whole group, even though no one knows it. The moment that bad action has been taken, that person cannot sleep in peace for the rest of his life. Impossible to be happy. But the same thing, if one person said, you know what, I think I don't like to do that. Maybe I want money too, but I don't want to rob the bank. If he look at his friend, some of his friends very successful, go to good school, have good job, have good money, and take care of the family. Maybe I should following the same path. Many successful people in this world walk down that path before, to work hard in school, to do the best in school, and do your best in the job, then you get promoted. You start climbing the corporate ladder. You become successful. You have money too. It may take long, but it's much more sustainable, and it's a peace of mind. When you look back, you don't feel guilty of your own action. You will be proud. I work hard for this. I deserve this. So you can get money in the wrong way or in the right way, and this the idea of the tanha. And this one may help you to understand better. I like to start from here when I teach the idea of tanha. The Buddha once said there is no love surpasses the love of oneself. In other words, we love ourselves the most. The reason we are here because we want to be here. We don't want to die. We want to continue to exist. And that love, again, is driven by bhava tanha. We are so ignorant. It's the deep instinct. If we use the word instinct, then we may be able to relate it to the word tanha much better. Human being, we born. Same thing with animal. We are created with instinct. The moment that we born, right? The nature give us this natural instinct. We have instinct to have. It's called kama tanha. Acquire thing to our life. Look at things in your house, in your closet. How many clothes, how many shoes, how many things that you have in the house. We never stop collecting things, even though we may not need them. But every time things on sale, let's buy it first and put it there. That's kama tanha. We have instinct to have. Human, animal, object, relationship, vacation, you name it. Bhava tanha, this is the deepest tanha in human mind, the instinct to survive. See, instinct to be what? To be survive, to be in that relationship, to be the owner of that and this and that for a very long, long time. And vibhava tanha is the instinct to destroy. If we don't like it, we want to get rid of it so we can go after something else. So kama tanha drive by this one, kama tanha drive by greed or rakha, the root cause of defilements. Vibhava tanha, this one, the green one, drive by dosa. It comes with the sense of violence. And bhava tanha, the red one in the center, this is the deepest tanha, the deepest instinct of human being, drive by moha, me and mine. If shopping can be put on hold, right, kama tanha, in the time of COVID, you can put on hold the thing that you want to buy. House, car, clothes, good food can put on hold because you need to save money to survive. You cannot sacrifice the money to buy stuff instead of save that money to save your life, to buy food and medicines during the time of war, of natural disaster. That time we don't go shopping. But when the life is in normal situation, then we come back to kama tanha. Let's go buy, go eat, go dance, go travel, go spend money. And then we get bored. Once we have it, we get excited about something, we go after it, we own it, we become in that relationship. And eventually we get bored and we want to get rid of it. This is how the mind works. Get excited about positive, negative. And when you have it, you own it, you get bored, you get rid of it. How long can you enjoy driving the new car? How long can you enjoy wearing the new clothes? Maybe the first week. And next week you have to look for the new one again. That's the nature of human being. We get excited, we get bored, we get rid of it, and we go after something else to get excited again because we are enslaved to tanha. That's the painful truth. Whether you like it or not, that's what the Buddha discovered and he shared with us. He revealed the nature of things to us. So in this example, kama tanha, easy to relate it. A man wants to be in the relationship, kama tanha. He is single and he start noticing, all of his friends have girlfriends, so let me have relationship too. So he crave for relationship. It's called kama tanha. So he look for the girlfriend, and let's say he find one, and they both fell in love. They become boyfriend and girlfriends. This is kama tanha. You look for something pleasurable, and when you in the relationship, it's become bhava tanha. You want to be in that relationship for a very long, long time. You want to be her boyfriend for a very long, long time. Don't change your mind. I love you. You love me. And the reason a man wants a girlfriend may be because he thinks that having that girl into his life will make him happier. because the starting point of love is we love ourselves the most. Otherwise, we will look for someone else in our life, right? We think that having relationship will make us happier, which usually not always the case, because eventually a man discover that, hey, this person, this lady is not for me. Let's break up. Now it's become vipavatana. I don't want to be your boyfriends. I don't want to be in this relationship. Let's end this relationship. It's called vipavatana. Then he become a free man again, so he can look for some other relationship. That's how life works. We are enslaved, and we didn't know that. Nirodha is the third noble truth, right? Nirodha is the cessation of dukkha. In this teaching, the Buddha did not give pretty much uh, any detailed explanation. He said the fading away and cessation of the same craving, the giving up, the relinquishing of it, of what? Of craving, the freedom from it, from what? From craving, the non-reliance on it, on what? On craving, tanha. So, in other words, if you can remove tanha, you achieve nirodha. You remove the root cause of suffering. And there are three ways that you can do that. Okay, in the short version, you can remove the craving or tanha through we call tatanka nirodha, the substitution of opposite. If a man have lustful mind, he cannot meditate. He can think of dead body. He can think of the ugliness of the body. Then the mind come back. He can continue meditate. Okay, and the second one, you suppress to the higher meditation, meditative state or the jhana. We call vikampana nirodha. If you study the text, there may be some teaching that you may be surprised that a man can meditate for 7 days without eating food and water. And these days, there are many people who can do that. You can sit 7 days. The reason you can do that because you find happiness in your meditation. You don't feel agitated. You feel super peaceful. In that deep state of mind, there's no rising, it doesn't give rise of the hindrances, the 5 hindrances. But when you leave the seat on the after 7 days, then the hindrances waiting for you. You can get mad right away. You can feel agitated. You can crave for things right away. It doesn't remove the root cause of craving, the root cause of suffering. And the last one is called samudchet. Samudchet means completely cut off through the higher knowledge, through apinya. Then you can do that. And when you remove the root cause of suffering, you are free from suffering, right? You achieve nibbana. Nirodha is the synonymous word to the word nibbana. And the Makha, the last one, which Luang Pi will not explain each one of the eightfold path, but I'm gonna show you what they are, and what it is and what they are. This bhikkhu is the noble truth, the way leading to the cessation of dukkha. The noble eightfold path, and the Buddha give the name. Okay, 8 names: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. That's it. No explanation. But the good news is you can find the explanation in the Satipatthana Sutra, okay, on the Tikha Nikaya Sutra number 22. Here, 8 things that the Buddha mentioned, the eightfold path, the path that we should walk down to realize Nibbana, to be happy. Start from right view, or right understanding, right intention or right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Some of these terms you may be familiar with them already. Okay, if you are new to this, it's okay, completely okay. Today is just the overview of the idea of the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. And if we put them in groups, we can find that uh, we can fit them into 3 headings or 3 groups. The right view and right intention can fit into the group of panya or wisdom. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood can place in the group of sila, ethical conduct, virtuous conduct. And the last 3, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, we can place them into the 3rd group, which is the group of samadhi or the mind development. Sometimes we call citta. Okay, today you hear the word citta several times already. By now you should know citta means mind. Citta bhavana means mind development. There are many ways to develop the mind. Okay, almost done. In summary, This is Nibbana that the Buddha point us to, that everyone can realize, everyone can have that kind of experience. Whether you are a lay person or you are a monk, if you are a monk, you have a chance to get there faster if you focus on your training, right? If you are a lay person, this journey may take longer because you have lots of responsibility in your life to take care. But no matter who we are, if you want to be happy, if you want to realize Nibbana, you need to develop yourself into under the three frameworks. The framework of Sila, being an ethical person, observe 5 precepts first, right? At least later on 8 precepts. And the second framework, you develop your mind to the loving kindness, the forgiveness, the mindfulness, the concentration, or the samadhi. And the last one, you develop yourself to the framework under the framework of panya or wisdom, just like this. Today you learn about panya from Dongpi Waravut. You also see that I keep emphasize this picture very often because this is really the summary of the teaching of the Buddha. You come to the teaching, you develop learn wisdom. You learn, you hear, you read, you study first, and after that you reflect, which is the second level of panya. You reflect on what you learn. Don't just believe. You have to reflect, and then it will become your reflective wisdom. And the last wisdom is called bhavana maya panya. To get to bhavana maya panya, or the wisdom that comes from seeing, you must let go the first two wisdom. You let go the book, let go the thing that you learn, and let go the thinking, because in the inner world is the world of non-thinking. But before you get there, of course, you learn first. You learn what the teacher said. You memorize how to do it. You put into practice, and then you let go. Let the mind unfold itself naturally when it's come to the meditation practice. That's how you get to the advanced level of vipassana or the bhavana maya panya. Okay, so all of this is something that you will be seeing more often throughout this Nakdhamma study with me. Okay, so today there are many new terms, many new vocabulary. So please go back and relearn and make sure you understand the meanings. Make sure you understand the purpose of what we learned today. Um, about the idea of the Satipatthana. How can we practice? What is Satipatthana, and how can we develop sati through this through the five aggregate to body, feeling, mind, object, right? And then we learn about the Datukammathana, the meditation on the elements, earth, water, wind, fire. Why the Buddha teach the Datukammathana? You have to know the purpose and how to do that. We reflect on this, the loathsomeness of the body. There's no being, there's no me, no mind. That's vipassana, right? And the last one, we talk about the Four Noble Truths or Arya Satya. You need to know the meaning, why it's called noble. What the combination, what's the compose of what the in the Four Noble Truths, what compose them in the Four Noble Truths, the dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, and makkha. So get to know the term, get to know the meaning, and connect them together. What we learned today, they are related. Okay, it's about the vipassana meditation to see things the way they are. And just today, the nice thing about what we learned today, all the information are kept in the same sutra, Mahasatipatthana Sutra, on the Tikha Nikaya, Sutra number 22. So check them out on your own pace. We'll pay respect to the triple gems. Then we'll take a break.